Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for attending our virtual preview day of engineering today. We're really excited to have you here. We'll wait a few minutes just to allow others to join our session this evening. I can see there's already about 20 who have entered the session, so thank you guys so much. And we'd love to hear from where you're tuning in from this evening if you'd like to add it to the chat. And we'll get started in a few minutes. Okay, we'll get started. Thank you everyone for joining this evening. I'm really excited to be able to kick off our preview day for the Faculty of Engineering, where we're hoping that you will learn a little bit more about your program and decide exactly if engineering is right for you, because we'd love to have you. I'm just going to go over the event schedule for this evening. We're going to start out with just an introduction from our partners in the Faculty of Engineering, and I'll allow them to introduce themselves. And then we'll get into our presentation. After our presentation, we'll move right into a student panel and a Q&A, and then we will wrap up the event and finish with some concluding statements. If you do have any questions for the Q&A, we'd be happy to receive them throughout the entire presentation this evening. If you just want to add them to the Q&A function of Zoom that you'll find on the bottom control panel on your screen, that way we can organize them and keep them all in one place to be answered. So without further ado, I'm going to pass it on to Karen Hemsworth, who is the Student Engagement Coordinator for the Faculty of Engineering. Okay, Karen, you can take it away.
Hi, thank you very much, Jackson, for organizing this and getting this all together. So I've just got a few slides that we're going to go through to keep us organized.
Oh, Karen, you are on mute. You'll have to back up about 30 seconds.
Sorry about that. So I basically just went over the agenda. So we'll do introductions. Dr. Little's going to talk about our strong academics. Dr. Gannam's going to talk about diversity. I'll talk a little bit about student supports and then introduce the students to you. And then they have a few things to say about an introduction, really. And then we'll go right into questions and answers, because I know you probably have a lot of questions. So Dr. Little is the Associate Dean of the Undergraduate Studies in Engineering. Dr. Gannam is the Assistant Dean of Diversity and Inclusion in Engineering. I'm the student engagement, as Jackson said, and then Kirk's a fourth-year student, Freya is a third-year student, Nishita is third, and Benjamin is kind of the star because he's our first-year student, so he'd be the closest to where you are right now. So Dr. Little, do you want to talk about the academic part?
Yeah, thank you very much, and thank you for joining us this evening. We really appreciate you coming by and your interest in Dalhousie. I would like to start off, first of all, by talking about, I would like to talk about our program. I think at Dalhousie, we have a very strong program. The first 1.5 years, and I say 1.5 years, that's 3 terms, is a core to everyone, no matter what discipline that you're interested in. The first year and half is core engineering, so you get to see a lot of broad discipline, and this is very helpful for you in an engineering career. um, as well as doing a strong emphasis on design. And we like to try to have design in every single term so that engineers from the very beginning are learning what engineers do. You also have a very strong math and science core. So engineering students draw on their math and science core to help them with engineering solutions. And so we try to give you that strong core. And whether it's chemical engineering, civil engineering, electrical and computer engineering, environmental engineering, industrial engineering, or mechanical engineering, those are the choices that we offer at Dalhousie. You start off with a very strong core. In the fourth term, that is the winter term of your second year, you start to take discipline-specific courses. So you have your discipline selection, and that happens at the end of first year. And then as you move into second year, you'll start to take your discipline-specific courses. All right, thank you. If you could advance the slide, please. Not only do we have a strong background, but we have strong professors. This is your first year calculus. Oh, wait a sec now. Sorry, wrong picture. If you could advance that, please. I was just kidding. That happens to be the 2019 World's Strongest Man. But you do have strong professors in terms of they are world-class instructors. We have instructors that are doing research in communications. We have instructors that are doing world-class research in sensors. We have world-class instructors that are working on alternate energy systems and water purification systems. So we have a very strong faculty that's able to understand and know what the issues of the world are, and they're leading and guiding you towards those as they teach the various classes. We find that our graduates are in strong demand. I've heard just recently, and I hear this repeatedly, that people in industry are saying, you know what, Dalhousie provides good students. We're happy with the quality of students. And in fact, we're just in the process of negotiating with a fairly large company. So they're going to provide some scholarships and funds because they're so interested in having our graduates go and work for them. So that's there. We have a strong co-op program. Those that wish to do the co-op experience, a very high percentage of them. We've had a little bit of a trouble during the COVID days, but we're getting back on track again, and we get a very high percentage of the students who wish to do co-op are getting co-op jobs. All right, so we have a strong program. We have, you get a strong education from the faculty that's there. Go ahead and switch it one more time. And in engineering, you can make strong connections. And so engineering degree prepares you for professional engineering. And after a time as an EIT, an engineer in training, you can become licensed to practice professional engineering in the province of Nova Scotia and anywhere else in Canada for that matter. There is a large number of extracurricular activities, student teams doing all kinds of things from high mileage cars to concrete toboggans to CubeSats to green power. You name it, there's a society and a group of students that are hoping to do it. And if there isn't one, you can go ahead and start one. I know that many years ago, I knew a student and she started what was called the Engineering Tea Drinkers Society. And she was excited about that. And so she started it and that it grew into a group. So there's lots of ways you can show that our courses are built so that there's teamwork involved. And so it's a great time to make connections and to make not only friends, but professional connections that will last for a lifetime and for a career. And so I think the Dalhousie program is a strong program. It starts off with strong academics, and it has strength in all of its aspects as we work through. So I'm going to leave it there. You may have specific questions, and I'll allow you to ask those specific questions either on the chat or later on. And I just wanted to say one more thing, and that is if at the end of the day you haven't had your question answered, there is one resource that probably we should say multiple times, and that is engineering@dal.ca. So engineering@dal.ca. If you have questions and you didn't get them answered or you didn't think of them until after the event, engineering@dal.ca. All right, thank you, Karen. I'll pass it on to Emil.
I think it's my turn. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Little. And it's wonderful to see, although I can't really see you, but to know that there's so many people who are showing an interest in Dalhousie engineering and who are attending the session to learn more about our programs and what life would be like here. And I agree, if anyone has further questions, please reach out to engineering@dal.ca. My job, well, first, I'll introduce myself. I'm Dr. Emil Ganem. I'm an associate professor in chemical engineering, and I'm also an assistant dean for diversity and inclusion. So I've been a professor, well, I've been an engineer for 30 years, and I've been a professor at Dalhousie for 21 years. So I've been doing this for a long time, and you might think, well, that maybe I was one of the few women in my class, and surprisingly, that's not true. But there have been women in engineering for a long time, and increasingly our numbers are growing. So part of diversity is women in engineering, obviously, but all other types of diverse thinkers and people from different backgrounds are extremely important to our community. And as the assistant dean of diversity and inclusion, I advocate for and support a variety of activities to reach the goals that the faculty has for equity, diversity, and inclusion. So we would do this because engineering is about creativity. I was attracted to engineering 30 years ago because I like to build things. I like to make stuff. I like to do things with my hands that have a basis or function, a background in math and science. So from my undergraduate engineering degree, I was drawn to biomedical engineering because it seemed to me that that was the most applicable to improving the human condition. But now that I've been an engineer for 30 years, I see so many ways in which all engineers are here to work to make the world a better place. So that's something you may not always think about or be aware of when thinking about engineering. We do work to make the world a better place. We are creative when we do this, and we work in diverse teams, and we need to communicate effectively. So you don't always think of creativity, diversity, and communication when you think of engineering, but those are really fundamental elements of being an engineer. And in order to do that, we value people with diversity. So including and valuing diversity and people is an essential part of our mission here at Dalhousie. And with that, Karen, who is next on the agenda? More from Dr. Ganem. Nope. Happy to answer questions though.
Thank you, Dr. Ganem. So I'm Karen Hemsworth. I use she, her pronouns. I am not an engineer, so we've got either engineers or potential engineers here. I have a philosophy degree with a master's in public administration. So I run programming. So basically, everything that I do is to help students be successful in engineering. I don't work for Dalhousie. I work for Dr. Little in the undergraduate office for engineering. So all that I do every day, all day, my whole purpose is to help you be successful in engineering if that's what you want to do. If you want to transition to another program once you start engineering, I can also help with that. So those are I just listed a few of the things that I do to help, but basically my purpose is just to help students. So I'm just going to tell you a little story. So a few years ago, I guess it was quite a few years ago now, I was organizing and helping students organize orientation. And I noticed this student was helping out with, like, we were carrying the garbage from one place to the other after the barbecue. And this one student was like, he was everywhere and I didn't recognize him. So I went over to him and I said, I don't know you. What's your name? Sorry, I haven't met you before. And he said, oh, it's my first day. I'm Kirk. So, and he shook my hand. And now Kirk is the president of the Student Society several years later. So yeah, I'd like you to hear from Kirk, Freya, Nishita, and Benjamin next, as they're going to tell you about their experiences, which I think is probably going to be the most valuable part. No offense to Dr. Ganem and Dr. Little, but I think it's going to be more fun to hear from the students.
Right on. Thanks so much for the intro there, Karen. I still remember that. That was a great day. And it's pretty exciting to think that everyone's in sort of that same time now. So I'll just give a quick introduction for myself. My name's Kirk. I'm an industrial engineering student in my 4th year, going into 5th year. So my degree is 5 years because I'm actually in the co-op program, which Dr. Little discussed earlier. I highly recommend co-op. You're paid. You also apply the skills from the classroom, and you get to actually earn real work experience by graduation. So it's a really exciting experience to sort of include with your degree. And it was actually one of the big reasons why I chose Dal. I also chose Dal because there's a really tight community in engineering. I find that at Dal, it's a really good environment because students aren't necessarily competing against one another head to head as much as they have a common respect for one another, because everybody's going through the same thing together. So in terms of what I enjoy academically, I definitely love engineering design. I also love building things, problem solving, creating things, and programming, and really working with people. At Dal, in your classroom, you're going to have a well-rounded group of students that have enrolled from across Canada and the rest of the world. It's, like I said, a really great community. And for anyone who's curious, I mean, even something like I never had any prior knowledge until engineering, but then I learned it from the ground up, and it's actually one of my favorite things to do now. And so that's sort of just one of the examples. One thing I'll say about engineering is that it is challenging, but if you put the time in and the effort in, you can do it. Once you've gotten your feet underneath you in your first year, you'll realize that you can balance your schedule with social events and extracurriculars. So I personally waited until completing my first semester to get involved, but there's so many different societies, as Dr. Little mentioned. I've actually played for the Dalhousie men's lacrosse team and been involved with multiple societies, from the engineering society to the campus newspaper. So there's lots of opportunities to get involved. And what's great about it, and in university in general, is just meeting so many people and building those lasting connections. So one other cool thing about engineering is and I have one here right behind me, is the engineering jackets. So all students in their first year can get an engineering jacket, which is custom. And once you're in your 3rd year, you get your discipline on your sleeve. And there's patches for all sorts of societies that you can get, and your position tabs on the jacket as well. So sort of a nice signature item to have as you're going through your degree, and really sort of builds that community that we have in engineering, which is pretty special. And so I guess at the end of the day, just remember, Dalhousie, the engineering program at Dal, is a very tight program. There's so many different ways to get involved. And there's an excellent co-op program available with lots of academic support for you as well. So really excited that you're here today. This is probably the best place you can be for information like this, and I'll pass it on to Freya or whoever's next.
Yeah, thanks, Kirk. I just want to say, if you want to put a link to ordering jackets in the chat, there's no problem with that. So yeah, go ahead, Freya. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. I'm Freya, and thanks for that great little description, Kirk. I'm in my 3rd year of mechanical engineering at Dal, so I just finished up my first semester of 3rd year, and I just also in the fall finished up my first semester of co-op, because co-op starts in 3rd year for us. And I am originally from Toronto, Ontario, but I came out to Dal because I thought the co-op program here was great. It was something that a lot of the other universities didn't offer to the same extent that Dal does. And I also love Halifax as a city. It's a great place to be if you're from anywhere else. I'd highly recommend it. It's awesome, very walkable as well. And so far in school, we've had so many great academic experiences, but my top favorite has to be the 2nd year design course, where, because I'm a mechanical, everything's moving, everything's a machine. So we got to build cranes that were cut short with COVID, but it was such a cool experience to start at the bottom ground design process and build your way up to having something that worked and was able to put a final output. And the profs gave us so many resources to do that. And I have been involved in societies since my first semester of first year. And I just got involved right away because I wanted to meet some people, make some friends, and I do not regret it at all. It was great, and it was a great way to form yourself a nice community, which I would really recommend you do in first year. Surround yourself with a bunch of people who are in the same program, in the same boat, because engineering, as Kirk said, can be really hard. But if you surround yourself with the right people, you're going to be able to get through it so much easier. And it's a really great experience, to be honest. And studying isn't as much of a drag if you have everybody around you doing the same type of stuff. And that's really nice to have your first 2 years in engineering at Dal in very general, so that everybody's doing the same sort of schoolwork. And I'd also recommend that, one, as I said, you surround yourself with a great group of people in first year and really be open to meeting others, and also prioritize your schoolwork, because as Kirk mentioned and I've mentioned, it's hard. It's not as simple as high school. There's way more workload, but make sure you prioritize and make sure you're studying for like the 30% midterm the next day instead of spending 7 hours on a 2% assignment. So that's my big advice, and I'll pass it on to Nishita.
Thanks, Freya. Time management is the silver bullet I would give to every student if I could. So thanks for that. Nishita, if you don't mind. Thanks.
Hi, everyone. My name is Nishita. I'm a third-year electrical engineering student. I'm from Halifax, so I really wanted to stay in the East Coast and continue living here because I love being by the ocean. That was a big part of why I was considering Dal. But more so, like Freya and Kirk have already mentioned, the sense of community that the engineering faculty really showed me before I made my decision really encouraged me to fully commit to the program. I've been involved with student life since the very beginning. I got myself involved with the Diploma Society for the first 2 years, and currently I'm in the Electrical Engineering Society. I really found that involving myself from the very beginning was a great way to make friends. For me personally, I didn't know anyone going into engineering. That first day of school was absolutely terrifying because I knew no one around me. But taking that initiative to go out and try to meet new friends and get myself involved, meet other faculty, really helped make my first year, especially in transition from high school to university, really, really awesome. And I would highly encourage everyone to try to get involved as much as they can in any sort of way. I found that, again, prioritizing and organizing was a huge way to keep myself in check in terms of balancing my school life and extracurriculars. I've been involved with engineering societies, but I also like to do music and other things in my spare time. So it's been something as simple as an agenda or having a nice calendar to keep you on track. One advice I wish that I had before I started is to make sure that you know your own personal goals. You'll start off with a lot of folks in engineering, but people have different goals in mind. People might switch programs, or they might have a different direction they want to go with their engineering degree. Sometimes it's important to take a step back and see what you like to do and what you need to prioritize in terms of your academics and school and extracurriculars to get you where you want to be after you finish in your 4 or 5 years. And co-op also was a huge thing for me to be in engineering. Right now, I'm in my first co-op term. I absolutely love it. I got to make some amazing networks and learn so much from folks in the industry. And I'm really loving how I can apply what I've been learning in school in the workplace. So if you're going to do engineering, co-op is highly, highly encouraged. And that's all for me. I'm going to pass it on to Benjamin.
Thanks, Nishita. I think that's really good advice. Yeah, Benjamin. So I know Benjamin, which is very unusual this year for me to know a first-year student. So he found ways to make connections, and I'm sure that next year is going to be a lot better. But Benjamin's going to tell you a little bit about his story now. Thanks.
Thank you, Karen. Hello, everyone. My name is Benjamin. I'm a first-year engineering student, and I chose to study at Dalhousie because since high school I wanted to study engineering abroad. And well, Dalhousie has an amazing engineering curriculum, and it also has good opportunities for co-op and research, which are really important for me. And also, Dalhousie has a large international community, and since I myself am an international student, I wanted to be part of this community, and I also wanted to meet people from different parts of the world who have different perspectives and different points of view. My favorite academic experience to the time has been my statics project, where we had to design a truss using a design software tool. And here we also did a force analysis where we analyzed the forces, the moments, the reactions. And it was really interesting because we actually had the opportunity to apply the theory that we had learned throughout the term. And it was amazing to see this. Also, it was a really great opportunity to meet new people since it was a group project. The way I'm involved in student life is that I'm a member of the Student Affairs Committee. And what we basically do here is we have meetings to communicate student concerns to faculty. We give them class feedback, and we let faculty know what students think about the courses. And this is a great way to create change and to allow student voices to be heard. And the way I balance work and life is through organization and planning. I love to use virtual calendars. So at the beginning of the terms, I go throughout my syllabi and I look at important dates, I look at due dates, at test dates, and I input all this information into my calendar. And this way I have a nice way of planning ahead and of looking what I have to do on the next weeks, on the next days. And I also like to combine this with a daily planner. So I go throughout, every day I go throughout my calendar and I write a list of tasks that I have to do. And this is amazing because I can have a visual representation of how my day will be like. And this allows me to prioritize, this allows me to plan ahead and to do a better job and to give me more time to do other activities that I also enjoy. And my advice, as Karen said, is basically time management. I believe time management is crucial and really important to be successful in engineering because there are a lot of tasks, there are a lot of projects that we have to do. And time management is important to avoid procrastination and to do all tasks on time. There are amazing tools out there that allow you to have a good time management, and the one that works for you is the one that you should go with. And yes, thank you. That's it.
Thanks a lot, Benjamin. Great job. I think you kind of summarized some of the stuff that everybody else is saying because it's also new and fresh to you. Thanks for putting the link for the jacket ordering in there, Kirk. So Kirk actually created the jackets. He started the whole Dal denim, and it's a thing now. What year were you, Kirk, when you started that? Was it was early on?
So actually, I'm glad you asked that question because it was definitely a team effort. So when I was in my first year in the winter semester, I first got involved with DEWS, which is the Undergraduate Engineering Society. But I had the opportunity to attend a conference where students from all across Canada attended. It was in Halifax, which I was lucky as a first year to get to go. I think I was the only one who applied. So apply, you'll probably get it. But I realized there was so much engineering spirit at other schools across Canada, like Queen's is known for their purple leather jackets. So essentially, we knew Dal needed something. So the group of us put together, I put together a design, the group of us sort of made it happen. And yeah, it's sort of a staple now, and definitely want to make sure that we share that opportunity as much as we can with things being remote.
Yeah, they're great. And I love the Instagram too. You might want to put the link in there for people to follow that.
Sure.
I'm just going to go back to one of the questions that someone, Freya already answered this, but just to explain, somebody said, I was just wondering how many classes in first year are located on Sexton campus. I was just wondering if I could actually be worth it to stay in residence on that campus. So I wouldn't recommend staying on close to the Sexton campus. I would recommend one of the residences, and the students will have more to say about what the different residences preferences would be. But the majority of classes are going to be on the upper campus or the Studley campus. In the Endachi Hall will be where the big classes are, but there'll be labs and lectures and things in the Chem building, and a lot of tutorials and labs will be held in the Dunn building. So Dunn building would be closest to Howe Hall, I guess. But yeah, there's more information. I think Jackson would probably have more information about the residences as well. But yeah, mostly everything is on Studley in first year. And I think Dr. Ganem's answering about biomedical. Biomedical is a master's program at Dalhousie. And Dr. Little, do you want to answer about the course delivery in September?
Yeah, sure. Thanks. That's a great question. It has some crystal ball gazing in it. Nobody really knows where the cases of COVID are going. Nobody knows the extent of the vaccinations and all the rest of it. But the president has made the announcement that we are going as much face-to-face as possible. That may not be entirely face-to-face, but we're asking every single class to have at least some face-to-face or in-person activities. So in a lot of cases, labs and tutorials and projects will all, and builds, all those things will have face-to-face or in-person activities. Somebody talked about face-to-face being just a little too close for my comfort, but so we'll call it in person. So yeah, we're hoping that clearly public health rules in this case, and if we were to roll back, we'd have to roll back, but we're definitely attempting to be in person as much as possible in the fall.
Great, that's such good news for so many of us. And now I'm going to go to Nishida for the next question. What types of courses in the electrical and computer engineering program? Nishida, maybe you talk about your experience in some of the classes that you've had and how they've gone.
So I'm in my third year, so I'm officially in my electrical stream. I chose to do the electrical side, not the computer stream. In your first and second year, you'll get your introduction to circuits. Dr. Little teach me my Circuits 1 course, which I really, really loved. And so I chose to do that. I chose to go into electrical, and in second year, I got to have a little bit more introductory courses. And this year, I finished my first semester of third year, and that semester contained a lot of the electronics related courses, which I really, really enjoyed. My favorite was Intro to Electronics. And in this coming semester, in the summer, I'll learn more about the power system and the bigger things of electrical. If you're interested in electrical engineering as the student side of things, I think you should wait until you get into your first year circuits course and see how you like being in that class. I really enjoyed being in the lab and putting together circuits and problems that way. And that really pushed my decision to choose electrical. I also really liked programming, so if you enjoyed that thing, those kind of things as well. I really loved how in design in second year, we got to combine programming and some of the hardware that we got to learn about together and create like a security system. So that was really fun. At the end of the day, I think you should really keep an eye on your first year. I think that's going to give you a key into whether or not electrical is for you. I feel like a lot of what we do right now is just all sorts of different components of what we learn in that introductory circuits courses. So yeah, that would be my advice. Just keep an eye out for circuits and see how you like it. I don't know if Dr. Little has anything to add to that from the electrical side.
Yeah, there's only one type of electrical engineering course, and it's a good one. No, there's all kinds of options there, and what you've heard is right on the money.
So just following up on that one, there's a question. You have to choose between electrical and computer down the road. I thought you got to cover both throughout. So Dr. Little, do you want to talk a little bit about how that breakdown happens?
Sure. In first year, at the end of first year, you put in for your discipline choice. What happens is that we rank everyone's GPA, and we start at the top and work down until programs are full. And then a high percentage of students get their first choice. And if you choose electrical and computer, then in the second half of your second year, you take 3 discipline-specific courses, and they would be a combination of electrical and computer things. And then when you move into year 3, you choose by your registration. There's nothing particularly, there's no choice, or you just register for either the electrical stream or the computer stream. And then you go there. There's about, I think it's 5 or 6 courses in the difference. So there's a lot of common electrical computer engineering courses, networks and some circuits and some electronics and so on, communication theory. And then there's, I think it's about 6 courses, 5, 6 courses in the difference between the electrical and the computer stream. Thanks, Karen.
Thanks, Dr. Little. So I see Freya's typing away, but maybe you want to answer that one out loud. So how exactly does the co-op program work, and on average, how much money is made per term? I know you can only speak to your experience, but
Yeah.
co-op has their own their own department, so we can forward your question to them, or we can advise you on that. But Freya can talk to you about her experience.
Yeah, I just deleted what I typed, but I was just saying that you make around, like, from my experience from last co-op board that I saw posted. So you take a whole co-op course, and you start it in depending what discipline you are, each discipline has a different co-op schedule. So Nishita and I are in the same year, but we're on opposite co-op terms. So I would just finish school, she just finished her co-op, and this is just to stagger the years throughout. And essentially you make between, from what I saw, $16 and $23 per hour, and you have to work a minimum of 14 weeks, and you're working 5 days a week, 7.5 hours a day. Those are the requirements for most of the co-op jobs. So you're making a pretty decent amount of money, and it's a great way to really fund your education throughout, starting in 3rd year. And it's just a great way to also get experience. I find you're really able to make connections, see what you like and don't like in the working world, as opposed to doing all school, graduating, getting a job and being like, well, I don't really like this job. I wish I did co-op, because it's just 4 months on, 4 months off, and you get to change it up and try different jobs out there. So I'm really enjoying the experience, and I'd highly recommend it to anybody who's interested.
Thanks, Freya. So I know Kirk is typing about Connor's question. What would you say is the most challenging engineering discipline? So I'm going to answer this one, and then I'm going to get the students to each answer if they'd like. So just, if you don't want to, you can just shake your head and I won't call on you. But I think that somebody might have something to say about all of those. But to me, I know that the most challenging discipline is the one you don't like. If the one that you're not interested in, if you're interested in the discipline, you'll like it. Like you will be excited about it. You'll be happy to be participating, and you'll probably become one of the leaders in that discipline if you really like it. So Kirk, did you want to answer verbally what you think the answer is to that question?
Sure. I mean, I think it definitely depends on your strengths and what you're interested in. As has been mentioned earlier in the chat, students have the opportunity to take various courses that are pertinent to various disciplines in their first year. And there are also many panel series where you actually hear from professional engineers in each discipline. I would say mechanical and electrical are fairly competitive to get into, for sure. But I think it definitely, I mean, you'll have some engineering, you'll come to learn, some engineering disciplines are more programming heavy, some are more mathematically heavy. It really depends sort of on a lot of different factors. But I am a big advocate for choosing a discipline that you're genuinely interested in, and also bear in mind that an engineering degree, a Canadian engineering degree especially, is very well known across the world. So sort of regardless of which discipline you choose, you're getting a really good skill set, which is going to provide an exceptional foundation for industry.
Thanks, Kirk. Freya, do you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, sure. Mechanical is definitely the hardest. No, there's like a bit of a feud between everybody's like, who's the hardest program, but or discipline. But they all have their challenges. Like you could never throw me in front of a computer and tell me to code. Like I'm not, that's not my thing. Nishida, on the other hand, go for it, girl. But yeah, there's so many different disciplines. And exactly like Karen was saying, choose what you like to do, because I do have some friends who chose what they thought they wanted to do because it was the most competitive in third year, but they realized that's really not what I liked because it was like the pressure of everybody. And they ended up choosing a different discipline and now they're loving it and it's right up their alley. But I'd go with your gut from the beginning of what discipline you like. And also I want to add that in your CPST course in third year, you get a really good understanding of what which is your writing course, sorry. You get a good understanding of what each discipline is, because straight out of high school, you're not really, I had no idea what engineering disciplines were. So you get a really good understanding and then you get to choose at the end of the year once you have a grasp of every discipline. So yeah.
Right, so that's your CPST course, your technical communications course in your first and second term. And then after that, that's when you choose. So you do get a little bit of information, well, quite a bit of information. And Nishida, did you want to add anything about discipline choice?
I think Kirk and Freya really hit it right on.
Yeah.
To me, it was, again, a gut feeling. Like I knew from like very beginning and in first semester, especially in our computer programming class, that I really was leaning towards electrical, and that is ultimately what I'm choosing.
Excellent, thanks. And Benjamin, I know you're the new kid on the block, if I can use that term. I don't know if everyone's too old, too young. I don't know. Benjamin, did you want to add anything to the discipline choice conversation?
Well, like I'm not in my discipline yet because I'm in my first year. However, I feel like this first year has been really important to help me decide what discipline I wanted, because I was between mechanical and electrical. And in the first year, I actually had chemistry class, I had programming, I had physics, but in the first term, physics was more focused in mechanical, and in the second term, it was more focused in electrical. So with these classes, I was able to see what I liked, what I enjoyed the most, and it actually helped me decide that I wanted to go for electrical. And yes, so basically, first year helped me a lot to decide what discipline I wanted, and I'm sure it will help all of you to decide as well.
Yeah, that's great, Benjamin. Well, good luck with your discipline choice. The next question is going to go to Jackson. Grace wanted to know, as an out-of-province student, are they expected to quarantine in Halifax before going into residence? So Jackson would have the newest information on that. Jackson?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm happy to answer. I'll keep it brief just to focus on the prize engineering content this evening. But yes, we will be having as of right now, it is expected that the current isolation requirements for travelers entering the province of Nova Scotia will still be upheld for the fall of 2020. As of right now, currently we're projecting a move-in date to residence for the Saturday, 4th of September. And students would be required to enter the province 2 weeks before to complete their 14-day isolation. Students will have the option to request to complete their isolation in residence. However, students also can choose to isolate outside of the Dalhousie community in an Airbnb or their own private accommodations before joining campus. And residence team will be sharing information specifically on the isolation requirements to your DAL emails. So make sure that you are always checking your DAL email and keeping on top of that, as where the most current information will be shared. You're also able to see currently an updated frequently asked questions sheet on our residence page of dal.ca. I just wanted to clarify with the question on residence earlier that Gerard Hall is still pending if it will be open for the fall. So as of right now, you would not be able to select it on the residence application, but just for those who would be interested in living there for the fall of 2020.
Great, thanks. There's also a question about international students that I think would be more of an international center question. So we do have a fantastic team of people working in the International Center. They answer all questions about visas and yeah, everything about visas. Nobody else will answer those questions. They are qualified 100% for that. So any questions about those sorts of things, extensions on visas and all of that would go to the International Center. I think Kirk's answering about the industrial and environmental programs, or industrial anyway. And Dr. Little, did you want to talk a little bit about the breakdown on how you'd acquire a master's in biomedical engineering? I know that there's a certificate program in electrical and computer engineering. Maybe you want to speak a little bit about that?
Sure. Biomedical engineering is a graduate program at Dalhousie. At some other universities, it is not. Large universities, Toronto may have a biomedical engineering program, but at Dalhousie, it's a graduate program. There are 3 pathways to it. It's through mechanical engineering, chemical engineering, or electrical engineering. Those are the 3 pathways. We do have a certificate. So if you take the biomedical electives in electrical engineering, and you do your senior year project under the supervision of a biomedical engineer, you can get a certificate in biomedical engineering. And then it's a matter of applying to graduate school. And typically the average there is a GPA of 3.5. And then you would apply to graduate school. You would get somebody who would desire to be your master's supervisor. And once you're teamed up in that way, then you go ahead and take your master's degree.
Great, thanks, Dr. Little.
That sounded really straightforward, but it's a
Yeah,
challenging route. So
it is a challenge. It is a challenge. I've had yeah, extra Kleenex brought out for for that program. I'm just kidding. If it's something you like to do, like we said, it's not as hard if you're enjoying yourself. Caitlin, if you could clarify your question, how does renewable scholarships and co-op programs work? That seems like 2 distinct questions, so we can answer it as 2 questions, but I don't know how it would be one. But if you don't mind just clarifying that one, and Kirk's going to answer about the industrial engineering program. I know Jackson has put quite a few of the videos and information pieces on the website for the preview days, but we also have our AU Open House link that I will share in the chat as well. So Kirk, do you want to take that away while I go find that link?
Sure. Yeah.
Thanks.
So I can speak to industrial engineering a little bit. It's a pretty versatile discipline. I'm a big fan of it, of course. It's my discipline, but industrial engineering is all about process and systems optimization. It's a remarkable discipline in that you're truly working with people and technology and bridging the 2. I see industrial engineering as working for a company or a client in a consultant capacity, as sort of seeing how much money you're able to save, or how you're able to make processes more efficient for that client or the company. So it's sort of bridging business and engineering a little bit, I would say. And I would also say that industrial engineers can sort of be found in any industry. For example, you could see an industrial engineer working for the hospital who's looking at how to, when a patient comes in the front door, how to get them where they need to be faster. You could also have an industrial engineer working in a manufacturing facility, sort of trying to remove bottlenecks in the process. Or you could even have an IE in a financial institution like RBC, a bank, where they're actually looking at the flow of resources through the organization and creating financial dashboards. I mean, it's definitely a versatile discipline. That's where I chose it. And in terms of civil, like, there's also a facility optimization component too, which sort of gets into civil as well. But civil engineering, I probably can't speak towards as much, but I know in industrial engineering, you do have, I just took a facility design course as well, where you learn how to optimize the space in a facility to make sure that the flow is optimized. Say optimize a lot in industrial. So it's, but it's definitely an interesting discipline. And like Karen mentioned, those preview series videos are very helpful.
Yeah, I often refer to the industrial engineers as the lazy ones, because they don't want to do something twice. They want to make sure that it's done right the first time. So nobody takes offense to that in industrial engineering, because they don't want to waste time. They don't want to waste money. Industrial engineers are known for saving money for for people. Dr. Little, do you want to talk a little bit about the environmental engineering program? You've got friends in there.
Sure. I'm an electrical engineer, so I'm not specifically targeted in the environmental area, but the environmental engineering program is all about making processes and products with a sustainable element to them, so that they're not damaging the environment, or it is about when the environment gets damaged, how do you go in and what kind of a cleanup plan do you establish, and what kind of remediation plan do you use in order to bring that back into a good condition again. So environmental engineering, there's an option in the civil engineering program, and then there's the environmental engineering stream. I would, you know what, I better not say too much more, but if you just engineering@dal.ca and ask that question, I can get the department head of environmental engineering to answer that question specifically for you.
Yeah, I suggest you take a look at some of the videos, because they did take quite a bit of time to produce some of that. And just so you know, our ability to produce videos does not reflect how good we are at engineering or teaching people engineering, because some of the quality in some of the videos might not be as good as you might like. So there was a question about, it's gone, somebody answered it, I guess, but I just wanted to briefly talk about but from biomedical engineering or for any master's program with co-op, that would be 7 years at least, I would say. So 2 years for the diploma and 2 years for the upper division, add a year for co-op, and then add 2 more years for usually that's what it would take for a master's program. So yeah, but the Dr. Little or Dr. Ganem, did one of you want to talk about the co-op impact on your years as an EIT? Dr. Little's been talking a lot, so Dr. Ganem, do you want to talk about that, how that works?
You do get credit. So first of all, what is an EIT? Engineering is a profession. So that means that after you graduate with an engineering degree, you are entitled or required actually to register as a professional engineer with the regulatory body in whatever province you're practicing in. So just as doctors have to register to practice medicine, lawyers have to go to be part of the bar, engineers have to be registered. It's a legal requirement to register to be a professional engineer to practice engineering. So each provincial regulatory body has requirements for how many years you have to be an engineer in training, is what it's called. Things have changed dramatically since my 30 years ago, and now I believe it's 4 years of being an engineer in training supervised by an engineer. So when you do co-op, and actually when you do graduate school as well, you can count those months or years toward your 4 years of EIT training required when you fill out the appropriate forms.
Yeah, up to 1 year of your co-op can count. And then it's different for doing graduate studies, because I believe that all of that can count, but that has to go through Engineers Nova Scotia or your regulatory body.
Yeah, you would fill out forms for all of your work terms signed off by your supervisor, submitted to the regulatory body and reviewed by them as well to make sure that it is qualified as engineering work.
Great, thanks. So Nishita, do you want to talk a little bit about the computer engineering program? I know the videos have a little bit of detail, but I know you like to code, so you might want to touch on that one a little bit.
I do like to code, though I will say I'm not in the computer stream because I really enjoy the theory type of classes, and that really encouraged me to stick to just the electrical stream. But from my peers, I've noticed that we have a lot of classes that are similar. So a lot of our core classes are the same. In my first semester of third year that I just did in the fall, only one class was different from my computer stream friends. And in the upcoming year, or the upcoming semester in the summer, half of our classes, so 3 of our classes, I believe, are the same, and the other ones aren't. I do believe if you go on to the electrical website, the DAL website, there are some flowcharts that really break down exactly where the commonalities are between electrical and computer, and where those differences are and what those different courses entail. Maybe Dr. Little can explain a little bit more about the computer stream, because personally I'm not really looking towards that line for the rest of my degree here.
Yeah, I was just tired of listening to his jokes, so I just want to give him a little bit of a break. Dr. Little, do you want to expand a little bit more on that one?
I'm shocked that you're concerned about that. So computer engineering starts in year 3. You start off with a course that is system engineering. It's a matter of breaking down problems into a form that a computer can solve. Then you take some programming courses. You learn about the architecture of a computer. You learn about safety and protocols in terms of coding. You learn about communications networks that computers use. And so a computer engineer is sort of the hardware side of computer science. Computer science is often the programming of the algorithms and so on, whereas computer engineering is the hardware, figuring out what kind of throughput, what kind of bits per second is needed in order to handle the data that you're asking for. So those are the kind of things that you learn in computer engineering. In terms of all the rest, and in terms of networks and electronics and binary systems and all the things that sort of everybody learns. Hopefully that was helpful.
Yes, thanks. So do you want to talk about renewable scholarships a little bit? Normally we have somebody who takes care of scholarships, but I think you work closely enough with him to be able to speak about that.
Now you're asking me to speak again. Okay, that's fine.
Yeah, I'll just punch you all together.
So I don't know the context of that question, but what happens is we have 5 feeder schools that do the first 2 years of engineering. So Acadia and St. Mary's and CBU and St. Francis and the Truro campus of the DAL program. And on those first 2 years, if you have a scholarship that is a renewable scholarship, when you enter 3rd year, we try as hard as we can, and we've been successful in the years, to match that renewable scholarship up to $5,000 upon entering in 3rd year. So we do try to make that commitment, and we try to do that as much as possible. I'm putting some not sure caveats in there because I don't know exactly what whether every single one is that way, but I know that's what we try to do.
Yeah, thank you. So a lot of the time it's just, you just have to keep your GPA up once you get the renewable scholarship. And the other part of that question is how do the co-op programs work? Well, that depends on your discipline, but mostly it would be co-op work, co-op study. You can find more information about that on the website that we shared. There's it's where it's different for each discipline. It's too much to go into right now where you don't know what your discipline's going to be. So we're just going to leave that there. So Braden wanted to know what the difference was between aerospace engineering and aeronautical engineering. And one thing they have in common is that we don't offer them at Dalhousie, if that helps. Dr. Little, did you want to take a stab at that one?
Yeah, that's a difficult question. They're fairly close to each other. Both of those would fall under mechanical engineering. And so in mechanical engineering, you would get a general background, and maybe Freya can help me with some of the electives that you might have open to you that might take you into the aerodynamic. So aerodynamics, in my idea, is the flow of things. So the flow of air over a wing, the flow of fluids around something, and so clearly that has planes and flying objects as its target. Aeronautical engineering. Yeah, I'm striking out on that a little bit. They're close to each other. They're not the same thing. And Karen's right. The only way you'll get any of that stuff is by the basic fluids and dynamics that you would take in a mechanical engineering, and they may have some electives that do there. Freya, I don't know, do you know anything about the electives in fourth year mechanical?
I believe there's electives. I haven't really looked into it much yet, but I believe there's aerodynamics or something like that. But how I like to think of it too, like a lot of those programs are quite specific. So it's great to get like the basis of a standard engineering and then branch off into a master's if you're interested in it. But there's a lot to explore and throughout like a general mechanical engineering degree, and then go off into like aeronautical in a master's program, because that gets way more specific. But at Dal, there definitely are some electives that you can take in the fourth year for space stuff. So yeah.
I'll jump in too. I know Dr. Little mentioned it earlier with the CubeSat, which is essentially a small satellite. But at Dal and engineering, and I believe this is combined. This is part of sciences, but it's sort of a lot of engineering students and science students together. There's a Dalhousie Space Systems Lab where actually engineering and science students come together and build a CubeSat, which gets sent up into space. Something I've always wanted to do, but haven't had the time. But it's certainly a really interesting design team to be involved with. And in terms of aerospace, I think that would be really interesting as a master's program for sure. But yeah, definitely.
Yeah, maybe Kirk, when you retire from being a student, you could maybe help them out, support them as a professional engineer.
There you go.
So we're just going to answer one more question. We're running out of time. We do want you to follow up with your questions to engineering@dal.ca, because we don't have contact with you once this is over. So we're sorry we can't answer all your questions. But Dr. Ganem would like to answer the question about pursuing general science and going for engineering, because we know that that's pretty common. We've been getting emails and questions from students about that. So Dr. Ganem, did you want to speak about that kind of quickly?
Yeah, okay, so I didn't, at first the question sounded like it was doing science, the individual wanted to do science and then engineering. But then I think that they then said, I'm not sure between pursuing science or engineering. So
I took it to mean that they are torn between doing science or doing engineering.
And I mean, that's a very, very typical choice, or confusion. So science, at its basis is about answering the question why do things happen, and being very accurate about explanations in any of the branches of science, chemistry, physics, or biological sciences. Whereas engineering, what I always say is we try to do the most we can with the least information possible. So it's a little bit the opposite, I just want to know enough so that I can effectively apply this information and achieve an end goal. I would say if your interests, and again, with sciences, there's a bit of a division between the biological sciences and things like chemistry and physics, where if you're leaning as chemistry and physics, you could be doing something quite similar if you chose engineering. But more and more of the engineering, we're doing engineering toward biological systems as well. Biological systems being so much more complex than chemistry or physics, and difficult to predict just because of the complexity of genetics. So just a second, I'm talking. Sorry, I have a child. Anyway, science is usually, oftentimes people who do biological sciences do so because they're interested in a health profession. So an actual occupation where you're dealing with the public in a health practitioner type setting. Whereas if you take biological sciences and follow an engineering route, you're more likely to be dealing with technology and problem solving and that sort of thing, working with other engineers and scientists rather than directly with the public. You know, they're all stimulating and very interesting and very important. You know, the depth of which you find yourself diving into, the nuts and bolts, could be quite variable on either side as well. So, you know, in engineering, there's a lot more trying to model systems, like to do as what? See, this is not a short question, Karen.
I know.
How many more hours do you have? On and on and on and on. I think, you know, a big basis is that engineering is a profession. We are geared toward, you know, solving problems with very little information. We're geared often toward industry and working in industry to solve industry problems, whereas scientists are more either going to become a health practitioner or look toward solving more scientific problems. So,
thanks, Dr. Ganem. So
Well,
there's a
Karen,
question. There's a question. Oh, sorry.
I was just going to say, we do offer what we call the joint program, a co-curricular program where a student takes 3 years to do the first 2 years of engineering, gets a diploma, and at the same time gets a Bachelor of Science. And so there's enough commonality in the first year of engineering and science that a student can do both. And that might help you sort of decide which direction you would like to go in or complete. So that just very quickly.
You can have it all. That's true. So if the students don't mind answering Gavin's question about projects and labs, we're going to turn it back over to Jackson to have some final thoughts. Thanks.
Yeah, I can add something quickly. I was just about to type, but
Sure.
in first.
No, sorry,
Oh.
I meant
Oh, go ahead.
type. If the students could type and then Jackson
Oh.
could speak in the background, if that's okay. Thanks.
Oh, that's okay. I'd be happy to have Kirk or Freya or Nishita or Benjamin add something quickly about the first year projects that are done. I'm sure that a verbal answer might come across a little bit more impactful than typed. And we have a little bit more time. I'm happy to continue.
Sure, Jackson. Yeah, I'll just pipe in quickly then. I remember when I was in first year, we actually got to go to the wood shop in our tutorial groups. And the task we were faced with was essentially building a device that would transport an object down a track. And at a certain point, it had to propel the object within a target area. And again, you had limited resources sort of to get started. Biggest tip I'll give you there is plan ahead and definitely have open communication with your team. But it was a really great opportunity to get into the shop and sort of get your hands on design. I'm not sure if design projects were different this year, Benjamin or Freya and Nishita, if they switched those up. But yeah.
Yeah, Benjamin, do you want to talk about your experience in online learning?
Sure. So yes, this year was definitely a bit different because due to the fact that of the online learning and basically that we could not go to an actual lab. But my design project was to design basically a holding mechanism for a syringe. So this mechanism will measure the amount of content in the syringe as it gets empty. We basically did everything online. It was a group project, but we used design softwares to design the actual mechanism. And yes, basically we did a model of the syringe holding device, and it was actually really interesting. It was really cool. It would have been better if we actually could have gone into the lab and created the actual device, but it was definitely a nice experience. It allowed me to learn a lot, and yes, it was really nice.
Yeah, design one is always fun, but design two is when the rubber hits the road, everybody gets really excited about design two in second term of second year. So I think your generation of engineering students is really going to enjoy their design two course. Nishita, did you want to add anything about any projects that you worked on in first year?
Yeah, I was going to say that besides the actual design course, one project I really enjoyed was our truss project in statics. So that was also a group project, not as big as the design course. It's one of the first projects we got to work with a lot of different students in, and it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I like the blowing them up. I like at the end when they put them under pressure and then they all collapse. What's that called? To failure, testing to failure. That's
For destructive testing, yeah.
Yeah, it's really fun. Freya, did you want to talk about one of the projects that you did or lab that you had that was fun in first year?
Yeah, honestly, there was first year chem labs, which are hilarious because it's engineers trying to do chemistry. And it's pretty fun. It's mixed in with the science people as well. And there's just like honestly, all the labs are really great hands-on experience. You learn how to work through different processes, you make mistakes, but then you end up fixing them in the end. And that's a big learning curve. And that sets you up really well for your second year design project, which is a colossal undertake. And it's where you divide off into your disciplines, which is really fun. So that was the crane I was talking about at the beginning. And yeah, all of it is good experience. Anything hands-on is what I really like to do. So really fun.
Great. Thanks a lot, everyone. So Jackson, did you want to finish us off?
Yeah, absolutely. So thank you to everyone who has stayed to the end of our presentation. We're really happy to have each of you listen to the different stories that our current students have shared, as well as the advices from our teaching professors and staff of Dr. Ganem and Dr. Little, and as well as the program ins and outs and expertise from Karen. So we're really excited to have you learn a little bit more about Dalhousie engineering, and hopefully that you'll make the choice that Dalhousie engineering will be right for you. We will be circulating a recording of this session if any of you would like to watch it again, but that is all on our side. We will share contacts to get in touch with engineering. Karen, thank you so much for putting it on the screen. engineering@dal.ca. Please feel free to reach out if you do have any questions. But we hope each of you have an enjoyable rest of your day wherever you're tuning in from. And thanks so much for attending our virtual preview day for the Faculty of Engineering.